Hello, fellow Americans. I want to talk to you today about the steps to take to survive an international crisis. As most of you already know, we are on the verge of the collapse of the US dollar being recognized as world currency. So I have made this short video clip to help you to be prepared when this collapse takes place. But first of all, let me stop for a moment and welcome the new partners to our YouTube website. My name is Gordon Hansen and my wife's name is Diane. We are volunteer shelter coordinators for the Red Cross and have been concerned with preparedness for many years. We regularly sponsor training classes, give personal preparedness talks to local community organizations. We coordinate concealed weapons permit classes, first aid classes, security classes, and any class that will keep your family alive, whether it be a national disaster or an economic disaster. I was raised in Big Sur, California, where even to this day there is still no electricity. Our food was cooked on a wood stove. We used kerosene lamps for light, and most of our food came from the land on which we lived. After high school, I joined the United States Coast Guard and was trained in law enforcement and search and rescue. After receiving an honorable discharge from the United States Coast Guard in 1970, I moved to San Luis Obispo, California. I opened my first business, and in 1980, I married my beautiful wife, Diane. And in 1 year's time, we bought out the largest real estate company in San Luis Obispo. Diane is a third-generation real estate broker. Both of us hold our degrees from the University of Southern California in real estate, appraisal, practices, finance, principal, economic, and legal aspect. We are also graduates of the Top Gun Academy, which only allow the top 0.5% of the agents to attend nationwide. We also guest lecture at universities and community colleges. I was also the campaign manager for Pat Robertson during his run for presidency. So between this, I feel this qualifies us to talk both about preparedness and economics. So enough about that. Let's get started with the meat of today's topics. With the Crimean referendum passed and Russia annexing the region, the United States and the European Union have threatened these sanctions. I mean, I bet you Putin is shaking in his boots as Obama has threatened these sanctions on him. But yet the full extent of these sanctions have not yet been known. The announcements are pending for some time in April. And if these measures are concrete, they will of course be followed immediately by economic warfare, including a reduction of natural gas sales to the EU, and then we will see a full dump of the US dollars by the Russian and by China, who is their allies. And as I've discussed in previous articles, right now, China, Russia, Japan, Brazil, many countries have got together and they have said, the US dollar is weak, the US dollar is inflated, we need to come up with a new world currency. This was a meeting that was even kept secret from the United States. Of course, through our spies and stuff, the United States found out about it. And of course, they went in and they complained that they weren't invited to this meeting. But the rest of the world can see what is happening with the American dollars. I don't know why the American people can't see what's happening with our dollars. But for those of us that are in the preparedness movement, it's now impossible to ignore the potential threat to our economy. We have been ready for earthquakes, we've been ready for civil unrest, we've got food, we've got guns, we've got different things like that. But what you need to understand, which is critical, which I want to get point right now, is the fact that our economy is going to crash. You can no longer claim that perhaps this is going to happen someday. Perhaps someday down the road, 5 or 10 years, this will happen. No, we're not that. We're at the time now where we have to face the music of these billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars that we have been printed. That we printed this money. We printed our way into where our dollar is absolutely worthless. And there is no time, like right now, You have got to get real. You have got to understand that the time is here. The loss of the U.S. dollar as reserve status will destroy the only thread holding the values up. And the only thing holding it up right now is investor confidence. The only thing that's holding it up is investor confidence. I mean, I say that again because that's all that is holding us up right at this point in time. And there's only two possible outcomes from this point forward. A, the U.S. will be forced to default because no nation will purchase our Treasury bond and support our debt spending, causing the dollar to implode. B, the Fed will choose to restart the expansive quantitative easing measures, confiscate pension funds, raid bank accounts, or issue new taxes in order to keep the system afloat. This will also end in the eventual collapse of the dollar value and hyperinflation. The consequences will lead to an explosion in prices, first in commodities and necessities like petroleum, imports, raw materials, food, electricity, and so forth, and then in all other goods and services. Austerity measures will be instituted by the federal government. Cuts to social welfare programs, including food stamps and Social Security, will come. Civil infrastructure will suffer. The cost and effectiveness of maintaining public utilities could become unrealistic. Anyone relying on such services may find themselves cut off for days, weeks, or even months. Public suffering will be inevitable, and it will rise along with public crime. If an event like Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans are ever an indication, the federal government's response will be inadequate, to say the very least. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, in other words FEMA, clearly cannot be relied upon to provide food, shelter, medical care, or protection for a community. In fact, in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, the feds did far more harm than they did good, corralling people into camps where death was rampant and disarming outlying neighborhoods of their Second Amendment rights so that they were unable to defend themselves. Tens of millions of dollars in donations and federal purchases and necessities were held by the trucks that were taking them in. The trucks were turned away, and the help from civilian sources were denied. The point is, if you find yourself in the midst of a national or international catastrophe, you should assume that you will be on your own with whatever preparations that you have made beforehand. To assume otherwise would be foolish, given our government's track record. There are some people who will argue that during an international crisis such as an economic war or world war, there is no purpose in preparedness. They will argue that there is nothing that you can do individually or as a family to weather the storm or to fight back. And this is just stinking thinking. There is no place for such thinking in your mind. On the scale of whether a threat is big or not, that is just ridiculous to even think about. Only a coward would give up a fight before it begins. As a survivalist, we know that if we prepare first, we will survive. A naysayer will fulfill their own prophecy, suffering the fate exactly as they imagine. But for the rest of us, we need to be ready because we don't want to be living a life of fear. That said, it is all important to acknowledge the truth that the majority of the Americans today are utterly unready for a major localized disaster, let alone a national global crisis. The problem, though, could be easily remedied with just a few simple beginning steps, and that's what I'm going to be talking about in this film. And I encourage you to send this film to family members and to friends to help them get prepared. I know many of you watching this are on our preparedness list and you are prepared. However, with the classes that we give, if we have 20 couples, 2 or 3 couples will get prepared. The rest will not. So what we need to do is we need to help move our family members and friends more towards being ready. Because if enough citizens would take the initiative to do these things, all the threats, no matter how impossible, could be overcome and inverted. Food supply is the greatest Achilles heel that you could possibly have. Most of the American population only has about 1 week stores in their home. And 1 week just isn't long enough to even get you through a small disaster like an earthquake or something, let alone an economic crisis. They say that in order to survive a crisis, you need to have 2,000 to 3,000 calories per person per day. Otherwise, you become malnourished, or within 3 to 6 weeks, you will actually die. So it's very important to have the proper amount of food. If you don't, you will be out trying to get food, and you will probably end up being shot or something like that from someone that has food because they just have enough for your family. So what we suggest is that you have 2 to 3, at least 3 months, 6 months, or a year's supply of freeze-dried food. Now, we used to buy regular food, but then every couple of years you were having to get rid of it. So the freeze-dried food became the best way to go. And here we have 30-year freeze-dried food. These are diced potatoes, sausage, ham, hot chocolate, cherries, all different types of freeze-dried foods like that. Here's freeze-dried Fuji apples, and there's 14 servings in this can. And you can have 14 servings of apples for about $5 or $6. They last 30 years in the can, but once you open the can, then they last about a year. However, around our house, they don't last a year. One of my favorites that never lasts around this house is yogurt. Absolutely mouth-watering. All this food is mouth-watering. Here you have complete meals. Several different kinds. This one happens to be vegetable risotto, and it is 12 full meals. And 12 full meals will cost you about $30. Green beans, 51 servings of green beans. This can's, I don't know, probably about $14, $15. So it's not real expensive to store up food. We have cases of this food, and in fact we have it in several locations. Also, you can get MREs like this, because at first you might have to be on the run. You might need to get out of your location. And so this food actually comes with a stove to cook it, everything else, cookies. This happens to be chicken and rice with vegetables, and it's a complete meal. It has cookies. It has a little bit of everything for your comfort food. Again, you can get them in smaller packages like this. This is 10 servings of ham and fried rice. So it's real easy to handle the having enough food on hand in your family. And if you stockpile enough food, then it will make you where you are in control and not your neighbors in control. You want to be in control. It's a responsibility, especially for you men of the house, to provide for your families. This is a good way to provide for your family. Besides food, you also need water storage, because you can't count on your city utilities to remain functional. They may go down due to lack of repair. They may go down due to lack of funds to pay city workers. So remember, your hot water heater is one good source of water. There are many other good sources of water. You should have 1 to 2 gallons of water per person stored. You should also have portable water devices that you can take with you in case you have to be on the run. My wife and I have several of those. One of them that we really like, a small bottle, produces 100 gallons of water. That's 757 half liters of water, and it only costs $31. So we highly recommend making sure that you have enough water storage. We're going to talk now about fuel storage. Fuel storage for both light and cooking and heat. Now, they say have a lot of kerosene on hand. I'm against having kerosene and candles. A few of them is enough. You only need these like maybe to get started with. Right now today, solar is real good for light. And then for cooking, I'm more into getting the propane. It's a lot safer. There's no smell to it. So get the little propane tanks. Have several of those on hand. I also have some of the 7-gallon size propane cans. Also, get quite a few cans of charcoal starter, because not only do they start charcoal, but they will start a wood fire also. I also think that you should have at least 20 to 40 gallons of gasoline on hand. Make sure you store it safely. And if you have a diesel vehicle, as I do, then you should have another 20 to 40 gallons of diesel. Now, at my age, I don't like lifting these cans in the car, and you do need to rotate them about every 6 months. So what I've done is I've gone down to the auto parts store, and I bought an electric fuel pump that fits into my cigarette lighter. And so now I just put the hose in the can, and when the other end of it in the car, put this in the cigarette lighter, turn it on, and bam, my fuel is in the car. Another thing that is very important to have is wood. You need to have plenty of firewood, and as you can see, I have enough firewood to probably last a couple of years. Try going a week or two without electricity, and you may find how dismal life can truly be. The very absence of light at night reduces one's productivity time drastically, and using fuel for a lantern is not practical in the long term. Solar power is truly the way to go. Now, a lot of people complain about the cost of solar power, but small systems that will serve you well really only cost about $1,200. There's a system that you can get for $1,200 that will run your refrigerators, your freezers, and run your television set and lights at night. For a lot less money, you can get these smaller solar systems. We use these all the time camping, not only for emergency, but we use these for camping. For instance, you have these solar lamps. They cost you about $30, and they're crank operated. They're also operated by solar. And then you have a solar light like this, which is a flashlight. It also is a reading light. Has a solar cell on this side. We also have a smaller solar panel here. This is a 7.5 watt panel. You can put it out on a table, put it anywhere in the sun, hang it on your backpack. Comes with all kinds of attachments for charging all kinds of batteries. These are special batteries that are in here. Once you charge this pack, this thing will charge your cell phone probably 6, 7, 8 times. It also has a little flashlight on it. Easy to carry in your pocket and just charge anything anytime that you want to charge it. You also have a solar panel. This is a 14 watt panel. Let me get it right. And this panel, you have all types of attachments. It fits every single computer that is made, so it'll run your computers. It'll do anything that will work with a 12-volt battery. It has this big, powerful battery here, and as you notice, 110. It has an inverter, so it will run your 110 objects. It also has a USB port to run any of your USB. Stick a light in there and turn it on, and there you go. It has a port here for a 12-volt light, and it has another port over here for your laptop. So not only will it charge your laptop, but it will also run your laptop. Now, another thing that we have done is we have put solar on our house. Now that's an on-grid system, but our electric bill was running somewhere between $320 and $350 a month. And for absolutely zero money out of our pocket, we could reduce our bill down to $170 a month. My wife and I have chosen to spend $11,000 out of our pocket, and by spending $11,000 out of our pocket, we have actually brought our electric bills down to $0 a month. So for more information about these products and about the products, the solar power on our house, at the end of this video, there will be our telephone number, our email address, and ways to get in contact with us. Okay, now we're going to talk about weapons. You should buy at least one semi-automatic rifle, one 12-gauge shotgun, and one semi-automatic pistol. At this point, I really don't care what make or what model that you buy. I don't care whether you buy a 303 or whether you buy a 22. Just get a semi-automatic rifle. Now this rifle, it's a Marlin 22, runs about $145. I have a lot of expensive rifles. I bought this one for my grandkids to go out with because they really can't. You can't beat this one up. It's a composite stock. It's really a rough, nice gun. It has this sight on it. It's about $45 for a red dot sight. Very accurate, very nice. This is a fun gun to shoot. I also have a 303, which is a bolt action. Rather have you have that than this, but this one was accurate. You can shoot 2 miles away. That one was a mile away. I also think it's very important for you to have a 12 gauge shotgun. And when you heard me say pump, I said it for a reason. I've read many reports and talked to several policemen, and they will tell you that when you hear this noise, people will run away. Can you imagine if somebody knocked on your door or were busting through your door and they heard, guess what? They're going to go. And part of the reason that is because most people know what a shotgun will do. A shotgun will blow you almost in half. So get yourself a 12 gauge pump shotgun. I believe that you should also load your rifle with a first, and now this is talking protection. This is not talking going out duck hunting. But first, one that's called a slug, which is one solid lead slug. That'll go through an engine block of a car. Then my next load is buckshot, which spreads out wide. Then my next shot is a slug. Then I follow that by 2 buckshots, because that's what this gun holds, is 5. I also have spare ammunition on the belt. That way, in case I have to bug out, I have extra ammunition with me when I bug out. You should also own a semi-automatic pistol. And there again, I don't care what caliber you own. Men seem to like big bangs and big guns. Women sometimes are more comfortable with smaller guns. I personally, on my concealed carry a XD Springfield 40 compact. Lightweight, big ammo, do a number on you. And another thing about this particular gun is all the different safeties, but I'm going to do a gun class, so I'll talk to you about them in that class. But this gun has a laser on it. So if I'm in a movie theater at night and somebody starts shooting people, I can just get this laser right on them, and I will get them even in the middle of the night. So that's a Crimson Trace. I would get if I was a gentleman, I mean even a lady. A lot of ladies can handle these guns, so don't get me wrong. But I like the gun, I like the Crimson Trace. Now my wife uses a Walter P22. She's more comfortable with this. This is a nice little rifle. Both of these will get the job done. Nice little pistol. Both of these will get the job done. They have several women's accessories. They have a bra clip where the gun actually fits in a bra. They do have shoulder clips. They make purses with places for the guns to go. However, I don't like purses because people steal your purses. So I would much rather have the gun somewhere on you. So, semi-automatic pistols, get one. I also am a big advocate of training. You need to get training. You need to learn about these guns. You should also get your CCW permit. That's what gives me the right to carry a concealed weapon anywhere I go, almost anywhere I go. Get your concealed weapons permit, because you need to be able to protect yourself and your family. Get one of these weapons, one of each of these weapons, whatever you can afford, get them. Because if you are neglecting doing that, then you're neglecting protecting your family. You don't know what kind of opponent you're going to come up in during an emergency, but you need some way to defend yourself. The Bible, in the Word of God, it says if you do not protect your family, you are an infidel. that means you are stupid. So you don't want God calling you stupid, do you? I don't want God calling me stupid. So I go get training and get the rifles. Also, it's very important to have a minimal of 1,000 rounds of ammunition. Now, 1,000 rounds of ammunition will only get you through 1 or 2 skirmishes, especially because you have to practice with this stuff. And it's getting very expensive. It's getting hard to get. When I first started buying these 40s, 1,000 rounds of 40s cost $140. Now 1,000 rounds cost $400. 22s are much cheaper. Now personally myself, I'll go through 1,000 rounds in a year just because I like to keep current and I like to keep good, and I do a lot of training classes. So go out, get yourself a semi-automatic rifle, a semi-automatic pistol, a 12-gauge pump shotgun, and a minimal of 1,000 rounds of ammunition. The next topic is finding alternative shelter, because there is no guarantee that during a major disaster or civil unrest that you're going to be able to stay in your own home. It's always necessary to have a plan B. That means scouting around for a location for you and your family in the event that you're unable to stay in your home. This location needs to be far enough away from large populations, yet close enough for you to reach. You also need to make sure there is a water source close by and that you can defend it. You should also take a cache of food and store it somewhere near that site, because you may be unable to take food from your home. So expect a surprise and be ready. Community is what really makes the difference between life and death in an economic collapse or a prolonged collapse. I challenge everyone in the preparedness movement to find at least one other person to work with in the event of a disaster. Lone wolf operations may be strategically practical for a short period of time, but everyone needs rest, and everyone needs someone else to watch his back. Do not fall into the delusion that you will be able to handle everything on your own. Next, learn how to fix one thing or provide one vital service. Try emergency medical training, gunsmithing, or metalworking, as long as it's an ability that people will value. You have to be able to produce something that people will want in order to sustain yourself beyond the point at which your survival stockpile runs out. Please be sure that you are seen as an indispensable person to those around you. Grow a garden. Spring is upon us, and now is a perfect opportunity to grow your own food supply. If you have even a small yard, use that space to grow produce. Focus on high protein and high vitamin food. Also, buy a food dehydrator and canning supplies and save everything. Use non-GMO seeds so that you can collect the new seeds from every crop and replace it in the future. If every American had a garden in his backyard, I wouldn't be half as worried about our survival as I am today. And by all means, please get your finances in order. As we have seen happen in many countries now, the government swoops in and confiscates people's wealth by attacking IRAs, bank accounts, and taking away services like Medicare, Social Security, and food stamp programs. So it's imperative that you purchase some gold and silver, and you need to do that someday soon. When our paper dollar collapses, they will be virtually worthless like toilet paper. I believe you should have some physical gold and silver in your possession at all times. I also believe it's a good idea to have a savings account where you can put your money in any form you like and take it out in any form you like. I use Kitco because Kitco is not a U.S. bank. It is a good place to put your money in, and you can buy gold, silver, you can buy Australian dollar, you can buy any type of currency, and you can get it out in any type of currency. I'm going to be giving a seminar on that soon, so please get your finances in order. Lastly, we want to talk about preparing your mind for a calamity. The most valuable resource you will ever have is your mind. The information held within it and the speed at which you adapt will determine your survival.
Whether you have a lot of supplies or minimal supplies, most people are not trained psychologically to handle severe stress, and this is why they die. Panic equals extinction, calm readiness equals great success. The state of our financial system is one of perpetual tension. The structure is so weak that any catalyst or trigger event could send it tumbling into the abyss. Make no mistake, time is running out. We may witness a terrifying breakdown tomorrow, in a year, or if we're lucky, a little bit longer. But the path, though, has been set, and there is no turning back. All of the items that we've talked about can be handled with a minimal cash flow. If you receive a regular paycheck, you can establish a survival supply for yourself and your family. There is no excuse.
Take these steps that we've been discussing in this video. Set your goals for the next 4 months and see how many of them you can get accomplished. Do what you can today or be very upset with yourself tomorrow. Which is it going to be? It's your choice. And Gordon says, remember the 4 G's. Number 1, God. Put God, number 1, first place in your life. Without this word and without God as your compass, as your guide, as your healer, the days ahead of us are going to be very, very rough and very, very tough. Even all of the education that I do for these times, I get this by inspiration from the Word of God. Number 2, guns. Make sure you have a gun. You will need this gun to protect yourself and protect your family. Without this gun, you will either die or you will be put in a government FEMA camp. The 3rd G is groceries. Make sure you have groceries. And as I've said before, I like these 30 years freeze-dried food. They're absolutely delicious. They're most nutritious, and they last for 30 years. Get groceries. The 4th G is gold. Get gold, get silver. And then, of course, we have the PSGs, and that is goods. Make sure you have goods to barter with. Also, make sure you have good skills. And with that, I thank you very much for watching this video, and we'll see you later.
You can get a hold of Gordon or Diane Hansen by calling area code 805-541-4423. Feel free to email us at slotopteam@aol.com. You can also get a hold of us on our website, Gordon and Diane at thriveslife.com or gordonanddiane.com. Either way, if you would like to be put on our email list, we don't send out more than about 3 emails a month. We will be glad to put you on our list. Thank you very much.